Richard, welcome back to another episode. I just want to kind of review how we did on the top 30 running backs from week 3. You got 22 out of 30. Anything you want to add to that?
I do. 22 of 30. That's actually pretty good. Boom. Like if we do that every week, we'll be fine. My top 15, the top 15 running backs on our list were all within that top 30 range. That's really good. And then it was that second 15 that we had a little issue. We had issues with, but that's okay. It was a good week.
All right. Well, I always like reviewing it. And just for everybody, don't forget to like and subscribe to this channel so you can get the updates right to your email. So let's get started for the top 30 running backs from week. Wait, let's get started on the. Jeez, I'm messing up like terrible.
That's right.
All right, let's get started for the top 30 running backs for week 4.
All right, number 1. Who else? Alvin Kamara. He'll be at Detroit. The guy's been on fire. Just in the receiving game, 14 targets in week 3. Unbelievable. He'll be at Detroit. Number 2, Dalvin Cook, who'll be at Houston. And what does Houston have but the worst run defense in the league? So Dalvin Cook's going to be looking good. Number 3, Nick Chubb, who will be at Dallas. Dallas has a bad defense, both against the run and the pass. So Cleveland's going to run a lot. The only problem is they might have to abandon the running game at some point if they have to play catch up with Dallas, but I think Nick Chubb is going to have a big day. Number 4, Ezekiel Elliott, home against Cleveland. The only reason I'm putting Elliott at 4 is because he had a miserable week 3. So we'll see. Is something wrong? Why isn't Dallas using him as much? Number 5, we have Aaron Jones, home against Atlanta. Aaron Jones had an okay week last week. Not as good as everybody thought, but he's playing Atlanta. Atlanta's been allowing a lot of points. We like him this week. And number 6, Derrick Henry, home against the number 1 defense against the run, the Pittsburgh Steelers. But it's Derrick Henry. He'll get 25 to 30 rushes, and he will likely score a touchdown, minimum. Number 7, James Conner at Tennessee. James Conner's been tremendous through the first 3 weeks. You know, we thought he might miss some time there with an injury, but he didn't, and he's been solid. Ryan, what do you have on Conner?
Well, James Conner, this is going to be the week I think he busts out and gets high on the list. So he's playing Tennessee that's got the 29th ranked rush defense. And the way they've been playing, I think he's going to have a breakout game.
I'm in agreement with you. I think Conner's going to have a big game. Number 8, Jonathan Taylor at Chicago. Tough defense. And Jonathan Taylor, I mean, what's going on, with Frank Reich over there in Indianapolis? Like they're giving touches to Wilkins and Hines, and maybe it was because they had a big lead this last week against the Jets, and they just did it. They wanted to keep Jonathan Taylor rested, but he better get a lot of touches this week. He's a beast, but he needs the touches. I hope this 3-headed monster that they got brewing now in Indianapolis doesn't continue. Number 9, we have James Robinson at Cincinnati. Cincinnati has the number 31 defense against the rush. So this might be a good time. And yes, James Robinson, he's finally in our top 10. Ryan, I know you had something to say about this.
James Robinson is playing awesome. He's definitely he can do it all. I think he can rush really well. He can catch the ball. Right now, he's currently the 6th running back in yards to, 210 rushing yards, 129 receiving yards, 3 TDs. I saw that game. He looked unbelievable. He just looked like a monster out there. So I think he's the real deal, and they're very thankful to have him.
Yeah, he's a fantasy gem for whoever drafted him late, or even in when leagues where he went undrafted, whoever picked him up seems to have lucked out. At number 10, we have Clyde Edwards-Helaire, who will be home against New England. He's been getting a lot of yardage. He's been getting the touches, unfortunately not getting the touchdowns. And that might be just because, Patrick Mahomes passes a lot, passes well. They score a lot through the pass. And also because Edwards-Helaire is small, smallish back, so he's not going to get the goal line touches either, probably. So that's what worries me. That's what might keep him from being a true top 10 running back for the rest of the year. Number 11, we have Darrell Henderson at the Giants. Now, here's a guy that's become the lead back for the Rams, who have a dynamic offense. So I think he's going to do well. I mean, he's been doing well week after week, and he's been consistent at this point. And again, he's their featured back right now. Number 12, Austin Ekeler at Tampa Bay. Here's another guy, unheralded, right? No one doesn't really get hyped up, but does the little things. Makes the catches. He's quick. He's getting 100 combined yards from scrimmage almost every game. You got to go with him in your top 15. Number 13, Josh Jacobs, home against Buffalo. Josh Jacobs looks every week he's been a little down, and this happened last season. And I know Ryan has something to say about this.
Well, I think Josh Jacobs, he definitely has been down. He didn't really do too much, but, that's because Derek Carr, they were passing a lot. So I think this is the week that Josh Jacobs gets back to the first week where he had 3 touchdowns. I don't think he'll get 3 touchdowns, but I definitely think he'll get into the end zone. And if you can get into the end zone, it'll make for a good fantasy owner pick for this week.
Well, yeah, we have to put him in our top 15 because he does get the usage. He gets the touches. Yeah, he's Las Vegas featured back. So he's in our top 15. And number 14, we have another guy that gets a lot of touches. Didn't do much with them last week. Hopefully he does better this week. We got Kenyan Drake, who will be at Carolina. And number 15, talking about Miles Sanders and Philadelphia. He's going to be at San Francisco. A guy that can do it all too. A good pass catcher, a shifty runner. But that offense has had issues. And still a good defense in San Francisco, even though they lost Nick Bosa. And Miles Sanders, again, iffy because of Carson Wentz play. That offense, something's not right. But he's very talented. And number 16, David Johnson, home against Minnesota. Is this the week David Johnson finally gets going? We'll find out. I think Houston's going to do well against Minnesota. At the very least, this might be a shootout. So hopefully David Johnson does his job both in the running and passing game. And number 17, Melvin Gordon. Gordon didn't do so well last week, and that Denver offense, I mean, they're going to be using the third string quarterback, Ripien. They benched Driscoll. So that's never good news for a running back, but he might be used a lot, and they are playing the Jets. Number 18, Joe Mixon, who will be home against Jacksonville. It's a good matchup, but what can Mixon do? We'll find out. Ryan, what's going on with Joe Mixon?
Unfortunately, he was a first-round pick and probably 99% of the fantasy draft picks. He hasn't lived up to that. Probably because he's got a bad offensive line. The team's bad, but surprisingly, Joe Burrow's doing really well. So I think that's kind of, anytime you have a rookie quarterback and you're putting the emphasis on the quarterback and giving him a chance, something's going to suffer. And I think his running has suffered. He's the 38th running back through 3 weeks. Will he live up to his name? Will he live up to his hype? I'm not too sure. Joe
Mixon, who would have thunk it, right? Through 3 weeks, he's the number 38 running back in standard leagues. And number 19, we have Kareem Hunt, who will be at Dallas. And we talked about it last week. There is room, apparently, for 2 running backs in Cleveland, 2 running backs in the top 20. Ryan, what do you think about that?
I'm surprised that they're doing so well having both those dynamic rushers on there. Probably because Cleveland, relies on the run, and Baker Mayfield, he's not really throwing it too good. So, I know what you think about Baker Mayfield. What's your thoughts?
Yeah, Baker Mayfield is my quarterback. I'd run it a lot too. Those are my thoughts. But all right, so then number 20, we have Mike Davis, who will be home against Arizona. He's Carolina's featured back. And he's been catching a lot of passes too. So in PPR, he's worth even more. Number 21, Devin Singletary at Las Vegas. Buffalo's running back here. He's starting to become their featured back. Zach Moss is hurt. He's got some toe issue, and he probably won't be back again for week 4. So again, it's the Devin Singletary show, and we know what Josh Allen is doing with that offense. And number 22, we have David Montgomery, who's home against Indianapolis. Tough defensive matchup. That's probably why Montgomery's a little lower, but Montgomery is the featured back for the Bears, and that I expect that offense to improve with Nick Foles at quarterback. Number 23, Todd Gurley at Green Bay. Todd Gurley, as we've talked about before, uber talented. The issue with Todd Gurley is limited touches. He's fragile. They try not to overuse him, which is never good in fantasy, right? You want Derrick Henry. You want the guy that they're using 30 times a game. So number 24, Carlos Hyde at Miami. The reason why Carlos Hyde is in the top 30 this week is because Carson apparently has a knee sprain and will probably not play in week 4. So here you have a good matchup for Seattle at Miami in what we expect to be a shootout. And Carlos Hyde is the number 1 back now in Seattle. Hence, he's number 24. And number 25, Jeff Wilson, home against Philadelphia. Now, Jeff Wilson was a surprise last week. Everybody was on the McKinnon bandwagon, and Jeff Wilson came out of that as the lead back in San Francisco. Yes, McKinnon got hurt, so that adds to it. Now, there's no doubt that Jeff Wilson will be the guy this week, and we know San Francisco likes to run. Number 26, Ronald Jones, home against the Chargers. We expected Fournette to take over in the backfield after his great week 2 performance. But then week 3, it was Ronald Jones getting most of the touches. So we still don't know what to expect there in Tampa Bay, but we're going to go with Ronald Jones this week. And number 27, we have Myles Gaskin of the Miami Dolphins. We've kind of ignored him for 3 weeks. He keeps getting touches, so we can't deny him. He got 22 carries last week. So, you have to be pretty bad to get 22 carries and not make the top 30. Number 28, Mark Ingram at Washington. Ingram is, he's been a little disappointing because he's not getting the touches. We talked about, how Lamar Jackson vultures his touchdowns, and how Lamar Jackson does a lot of rushing, how they employ other backs. But Mark Ingram is a beast. So even with limited touches, he can easily score, break a long run. So we're going to keep him in the top 30. And he's got a good matchup at Washington, at the Redskins. I think Baltimore's going to be angry after what happened, and they're going to go in and obliterate the Washington football team. And number 29, I'm going to put in Sony Michel. But Sony Michel rushed for 117 yards against the Raiders. I liked what I saw. I saw a guy that was, a little hungry, wants more touches, was putting in that extra effort. So I'm keeping him. I'm putting him at number 29. And then number 30, we're going with old man Adrian Peterson, who will be home against New Orleans. Peterson got 22 carries last week. So we had the wrong Detroit guy. We went with the rookie, and it burned us. So this week we're going with old man Peterson at number 30.
I just want to comment on 2 of your picks. Mark Ingram, I just don't think that offense is doing much. I mean, Mark Ingram does really well when it comes to touchdowns. He's not going to get the long breakouts. So if that offense isn't moving and they don't get close to the goal line, he ain't going to get the touchdown. So I'm not sure about the Mark Ingram there. I do agree with you on the Adrian Peterson, although if he's getting 22 carries, you're going to put Adrian Peterson a little bit higher on your list, and that's about it. I want to thank you for coming on here and sharing your top 30 running backs for week 4. So I want to thank you for coming on here.
It's my pleasure.
And like always, good luck, and I hope you have a good football week.
Thank you.